Ya se despedía. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. I hope your day and your week have been going very well so far. In ancient times, the oracle was a source of wisdom and fortune telling for the people. In modern times, he just gives out NFL picks. Welcome to the NFL Oracle, guys. Week 5 is officially upon us for the NFL season. And as always, guys, I've got some really great picks to go ahead and share with you. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. All right, guys, with a new day and a new week comes some new opportunities to go ahead and make some money, guys. We have a lot of picks to go ahead and share. We have 12 straight bets, as well as some parlays and teasers at the end of today's video. One quick thing before we dive into the picks, I do want to go ahead and do a quick little recap of how we did last week. And look, admittedly, we've had a pretty slow start to the year here in the Oracle, especially in terms of our straight bets, but last week was the first sign that we are turning the corner. We went 9-6 last week overall. It started off a little rocky, 2-4 to start, and then in the later games, we really did come together in the 4 o'clock slate, the Monday Night Football games. We had a really good, strong finish. So overall, a pretty good day. We also went 2-1 on our teasers. We're still struggling a little bit in the parlay category, but all will come together. But more importantly, guys, the straight bets, we finally did have a pretty good week. 9-6 last week, trending in the right direction, 29-31 overall. Again, all my records, everything is available over on GuyBostonSports.com, so make sure to go ahead and check that out, as well as all the final plays. Let's go ahead and build on that positive momentum coming off of our strong week 4. Let's carry that into a stronger week 5. By the way, go Red Sox, baby. Let's go game 3 tonight versus the New York Yankees. Hoping for a series win. We'll see how it goes. But guys, great episode in store. Let's go ahead and dive right into week 5 NFL picks. All right, guys, we have 12 straight bets in this week's video. And the first game we're going to go ahead and take a look at here is the Niners-Rams Thursday Night Football game tonight, 8:15 p.m. kickoff. Our first official pick in our week 5 NFL slate. Drum roll, please. We got Niners team total under 19.5 points. We'll jump over to the Outlier screen to go ahead and dive into this pick. By the way, shout out to Outlier, the sponsor of today's video. Most of the data you're going to see in today's video is brought to you by Outlier. We do have a link down below in the description, as well as it will be in the pinned comment for a 7-day free trial to check out Outlier for yourself. If you've been watching my videos for a long time, you know Outlier is the best sports betting tool on the market. It has tons of insights, analysis, numbers that you can't find anywhere else. So make sure to go ahead and check this out. Link down below in the description or the pinned comment, 7-day free trial. Thank you to Outlier for sponsoring today's video. So Niners team total under 19.5 points. We're grabbing that from -135. Best odds available to me are BetMGM, but it's also available on DraftKings and FanDuel. Guys, as always, make sure to shop around for the best sportsbook odds available to you. To me, this is a pretty simple pick. The spread has gotten to the point now where I don't even think it's worth it to take the Rams. Now the spread's up to like 8.5, 9 points in some markets. If you bet it a couple days ago when it was 6.5, 6, not a bad mark. But here, it's getting to be a little high. And honestly, I do lean Rams even at the 8.5, 9.5 point spreads. But obviously, when you get those higher spreads, a lot more risk becomes involved. To me, this is a safer play, and it's the better play ultimately. Under 19.5 points. The Niners have just too many injuries, guys. And you know what? They've been playing pretty well, all things considered. You know, all the injuries they've had, they played pretty well. But there comes a point where they just can't do much more. Just looking at the offense, ignoring the defensive side, which they have a plethora of injuries on the defensive side as well. Obviously, Brandon Ayuk on offense, he's still out, nowhere close to returning, according to John Lynch. I mean, you keep going down the list. Jawan Jennings is out. That's obviously not good. George Kittle's out. Not good. Ricky Purcell's out. Not good. Brock Purdy's out. Not good. Trent. I mean, you just keep going down the list. It's like, who's going to play wide receiver? They might call you or me to go up and play wide receiver at this point. Mac Jones obviously starting. And Mac Jones, in his time this year when he's been called on to take the place of Brock Purdy, he hasn't been terrible, but you got to give him something to work with here. I mean, he literally is without the top 3 wide receivers in this offense, the top tight end. The only guy he has is McCaffrey, and the injury gods are cruel when it comes to the 49ers. You just got to hope that McCaffrey can stay healthy here, but I don't think McCaffrey's enough. Mac Jones needs more than that. You know, the offensive line has some injuries as well. Rams defense is pretty good. From an analytical standpoint, the Niners have cashed this under in 2 of the 4 games this year. They're averaging 20 points per game, so right around that line. But again, this is a tough matchup spot here. Head-to-head last year versus the Rams, the last time they played, on December 12th of last year. The Niners only had 6 points in that game. It was a pretty low-scoring affair. The previous time, September 22nd of last year, they did score 24 points. But again, very different circumstances here this time around. Look at the right side of the screen. If we get the injury screen off here, go back to the matchup screen here. The Rams defense, top 10 scoring defense in the league right now. Only giving up 20.2 points per game. Top 10 against the run, top 10 against the pass in terms of yards allowed per game. This is a pretty strong Rams defense with a pretty decent pass rush as well. Maybe they'll surprise us, but I think it's going to be a very long day for Mac Jones and company. Again, the line honestly is pretty favorable. They could still score a couple of touchdowns, a field goal, 17 points here, and we still cash under as long as they don't score more than 20 or 20 or more. And honestly, considering all the injuries and everything with the defensive matchup, I don't see how the Niners touch 20 points or get anywhere close to 20 points in this one. So under 19.5 points, you're grabbing it from minus 135. A little juice if you're grabbing it on DraftKings or FanDuel, but still worth it, honestly. This is a very strong line. All right, guys, moving right along onto the Sunday slate. And by the way, if you guys miss any picks or, obviously the video is going to be a little bit longer and you can't find a pick, don't worry. The timestamps will be down below in the description to go ahead and watch along and jump through the video and find the games you want to go through. Also, I do want to mention, I'm not covering every single game because I don't see there's a ton of value in every single game. I don't want to place a bet on a game where I don't like the game. So not every single game will be covered. For example, I'm skipping the London game, Vikings-Browns. I think that game's going to be a crapshoot. I'll give you a little something in the parlay teaser section for that game, but in terms of covering it in a straight bet category, not going to happen in this video. Speaking of crapshoots, guys, our next game we're looking at on Sunday is Giants-Saints, 1 p.m. kickoff. I'm going with the under here, 43.5. And we jump back to the outlier screen here. We're grabbing it from minus 132 over on FanDuel. Best odds available to me. I almost didn't want to take this game either, but I'm going to be honest, the under seems like a pretty strong play here. The point spread is very confusing. The Giants are underdogs in this spot. How the Saints are favored in any game this year, I truly don't understand. The Giants, obviously, they lose Malik Neighbors. They've got a rookie quarterback in, although he did look pretty solid last week versus a good Chargers team. I don't know what to think of Jackson Dart yet. Neither of these offenses impress me, and neither of these defenses totally impress me. The Giants' pass rush is pretty good, and the Saints' run defense isn't bad, but neither defense is very good. Neither offense is very good. To me, I'm just hoping that those quadruple negatives will enter in to become an under here. So the under has cashed in 3 of the Giants' 4 games so far this year. The only game the over hit, obviously, was that Cowboys-Giants game, but they went to overtime. For the Saints, the over actually has been hitting in 3 of their 4 games, but that's because the other team scores a crap ton of points on them. In this situation, do you see the Giants scoring a ton? They scored 21 points against the Chargers last week, and again, now you lose Malik Neighbors. Their offense, which was already unimpressive to begin with, becomes far more unimpressive. And even though the Saints' defensive matchup is a good one for the Giants, I just don't see the Giants scoring enough to contribute towards this total. On the flip side, again, the Saints' offense, the same thing. Only averaging 16.5 points per game, one of the bottom 4 scoring offenses in the NFL right now. One of these two teams has to score, I would say, somewhere in the ballpark of like 27, 28 points in order for this over to hit. Can either of these teams do that, or 20, even 24 points? I don't know. I mean, I just don't see it. The Saints' highest scoring game of the season, 21 points, so they really have not been scoring. And, they played some good defense, but they've also played some weaker defenses, the Niners one included. And then look at the Giants. I mean, they obviously had that 37-point game versus Dallas, but besides that one, 6 points versus Washington, 9 points versus KC. Last week, 21 points versus the Chargers. So I just don't trust either offense to put up big numbers in this spot, despite some decent defensive matchups. 2 bad teams. Go ahead and take the under. This game's going to be an ugly one. All right, guys, for our third pick in today's video, we're moving on to the Cowboys-Jets game, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. This is one where I see a lot of people have been taking the Jets. A lot of the money's on the Jets. A lot of sharp bettors have been on the Jets, which usually means, hey, maybe look at the Jets a little bit, but I'm not going to overthink this one here. And I don't think the sharp action's enough to go ahead and jump over the Jets side of things. I'm going with the Cowboys here on the spread, minus 2.5, which you're getting pretty good value, plus 101 over on Novik, so a plus money play here. Look, I get it. The Cowboys defense is putrid. They are the second worst scoring defense. Only Miami has had a worse scoring defense, and honestly, Miami's been better. Dallas's defense truly, I think, is the worst defense in the NFL. You can throw on them, you can run on them. It's been tough to watch. Although, I guess not tough. Tough to watch isn't the right word because those games have been pretty fun. It's been a bunch of fireworks in the Cowboys game. Look at their point totals in their games. Looking at 2025. I mean, 40-40, 31-14, which is the lowest, 37-40, 24-20. I mean, it's been crazy. I just don't think the Jets offense is good enough to go ahead and utilize the weaknesses of the Cowboys defense. To sort of emphasize my point here, look at the Jets offensive numbers. They're 29th right now in the NFL in passing yards per game. Now, obviously playing a defense like Dallas should help them out a little bit, but Justin Fields, and I am a fan of his, and I am rooting for him, although I'm not really rooting for the Jets. I'm hopeful for Justin Fields that he continues to have a long career in the NFL. Let's be honest. He's not the best passer. He's a great running quarterback, and he's a decent passer, but he's not a great passing quarterback. I just don't think that this Jets offense is built to utilize the weakness that is the Cowboys secondary. So, the Cowboys run defense isn't great either, so the Jets should be able to run the football pretty efficiently. It's going to be a very close game. I think the spread is pretty telling, but the one thing we do know is that Dallas's offense is very good. The one thing that Dak Prescott, even without CeeDee Lamb last week, scored 40 points on a Packers defense that I think most of us can agree we all thought was one of the best defenses in the NFL, and they scored 40 points in that game. This Cowboys offense is for real. As you know, there are two things that are very real here. Number one, the Cowboys defense is really, really bad. But number two, the Cowboys offense is really, really good. I mean, they actually have a running game this year with Javonte Williams. Look at the right side of the screen here. The number one passing offense in the NFL right now, averaging 281 passing yards per game. And they are the 12th best rushing team as well, averaging 123 rushing yards per game. So this is a very good offense altogether. And let's not act like the Jets defense has been anything good at all. For all the crap we want to talk on the Cowboys defense, the Jets defense is only giving up on average 3 points fewer per game. Still 30 points per game. The tied for 28th scoring defense in the NFL right now. 14th in passing yards allowed, 25th in rushing yards allowed. They don't really have a pass rush to speak of. They're not forcing any turnovers. The Cowboys defense is bad, but so isn't the Jets. And then it becomes a battle of which offense do you trust more. And I think we can all agree the Cowboys offense is definitely more trustworthy in this spot. We also have the insights provided by Outlier. The New York Jets are 6-12 in their last 18 games against the spread. So, it's the Jets at the end of the day, guys. I understand the Cowboys defense is that bad. The Jets do play tight. Like, the games this year have been pretty close. They've been a pretty frisky team. Obviously week 1 versus the Steelers, that Bucs game, they should have won that one. Miami, they kept it close. The only game this year the Jets have been blown out truly was that Buffalo game. But again, two bad defenses. Ultimately, it comes down to which offense you trust more. And to me, it's not even a choice. It's Dallas. All right, guys, next up, our fourth pick in today's video. We're moving on to the Dolphins-Panthers game, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. And this is another one where I don't necessarily love either side, but I'm picking the one with A, more value with a plus money play, and B, we're just kind of fading the other side. So we're taking the Panthers here on the money line, which I'm grabbing for plus 104 over on Novik. Similar to the Cowboys-Jets game, these are pretty even teams in terms of defense. What it comes down to is which offense do you trust more. Now, ultimately, in a normal circumstance, I probably would trust Miami's offense more, but Miami losing Tyreek Hill is a very big loss. Carolina's been a weird team. They get blown out week 1 by the Jaguars, then they keep it close with Arizona, then they absolutely destroy the Falcons 30-0, and then they follow that up with a blowout 42-13 against the Patriots. So I really don't have a good read on them. Miami's also 1-3. The last 2 weeks they played better. They gave Buffalo a pretty good challenge, and then they obviously beat the Jets last week. But Miami, short rest on the road here. They have not been a very strong road team in the Tua Tagovailoa era. Without Tyreek Hill now, that's obviously a massive loss for this Dolphins offense. I think this game's going to be another one of these. There's been a few of these this week where you have some crapshoots. I promise there's going to be some good games this week, but these games, a couple of these games so far have not been especially exciting here. But again, Miami's offense, 21st scoring offense, I don't think it's going to improve now that Tyreek Hill is down. And for what it's worth, Carolina's defense has not been very good, but they haven't been awful. Their passing defense in particular, just 12th in the NFL right now in terms of passing yards allowed per game. Now, you watched that Pats game last week. The defense did not look very good, but from a numbers standpoint, it hasn't been awful. To be fair, Trevor Lawrence, Kyler Murray, Michael Penix, and Drake May, you can make a real argument that Drake May is the best of those four. And I love my guy Drake May, but obviously he's a second-year quarterback, still a lot to prove. They haven't exactly faced the cream of the crop of quarterbacks, but if we're being honest here, is Tua the cream of the crop? I wouldn't necessarily say so myself. So no pass rush worth talking about here for Carolina, which obviously is a problem here. On the flip side, their offense has not been great, but there is a glimmer of hope. Bryce Young can play well. We've seen it happen before. They have Ted McMillan, who has looked solid as a rookie. They have Chuba Hubbard. They have something there, and this Dolphins defense has been very, very bad. Short week for Miami, on the road, no Tyreek Hill. They now have to kind of reconfigure this offense on the fly here because with no Tyreek, the entire makeup of this offense changes. Yeah, you still have Jalen Waddle, you still have A-Chain, you still have Darren Waller, but is that enough? We'll find out here. Ultimately, I'm siding with value. Plus 104. This, to me, is a coin flip game. You're giving me plus money odds in a coin flip game. I'll take the team with the plus money odds here in this spot versus the Miami team. Again, short week, so less rest. Lose their top player on offense. Haven't been a good defensive team. Offensively, they've been a mess. I think Carolina is, I don't know if it's necessarily the safer play, but from a value standpoint, it's definitely the smarter play in this one. Either take the Panthers or don't bet this game at all is my advice. Carolina has some value on them. Go ahead and rock with the Panthers. If not, if you disagree, I would just stay away from this game altogether. All right, guys, our fifth pick in today's video is coming from the Raiders-Colts game, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. And this might surprise some people because I've talked a lot of crap on the Raiders this year, but I'm taking the Raiders here on the spread, plus 7.5. I'm grabbing that for minus 124 over on Novig, best odds available to me. To be totally fair, I still think the Raiders are not a very good team. I still think they're going to lose this game. But 7.5 points, it's a bit much in this game. The Colts, I thought they lost that game, and honestly, they had some missed opportunities. Adonai Mitchell, obviously, that fumble in the end zone, a couple of missed opportunities, but they actually played the Rams pretty well. Ev and I talked about this a little bit on HGH, which, by the way, if you haven't seen this week's edition of HGH, go ahead and check that out over on the Guy Boston Sports YouTube channel. It's already out, came out yesterday. Ev and I kind of discussed this already. The Colts, I think, are a good team, certified. I don't think they're a great team. I think this is a 9 at best 10-win team, which obviously is good enough to make the playoffs in the AFC, but I don't think they're in that upper echelon. They're not going to be able to compete with the likes of Buffalo and KC and the Chargers and eventually when the Ravens get their shit together, the Ravens. They're not quite on that level, I personally believe. A team like the Raiders can hang with them, and the biggest concern I have with the Colts right now is their defense. The offense has been great. Top 5 scoring offense. They're top 10 in passing yards per game, rushing yards per game. It's a bit of a problem when you're facing off with the Raiders, right? Well, for the Raiders, I should say. Not a problem for the Colts, a problem for the Raiders. Their defense has not been very good, and that's why ultimately I do think the Colts will win this game. The Raiders' defense is not good enough to beat the Colts. That being said, the Colts' defense is not good enough to cover a 7.5 point spread here because their defense is some concern. Now, their run defense has been pretty solid, but they are a bottom 11 team in terms of passing yards per game. They've been very inefficient in the red zone. You look at the third down numbers, the first down numbers, again, the passing yards per game. Their pass rush has been solid, not great. The Raiders are without offensive tackle Colton Miller, which is a big factor. Again, the Raiders are going to lose this football game. Make no mistake of that. But I do think their offense is good enough in this spot versus a Colts defense that has some issues where I think the Raiders can keep this game relatively close. Look at the Raiders games. Obviously, they lost by 1 last week to the Bears. They won by 7 against the Patriots. They got blown out in a couple of games. This game, honestly, is a pretty good over bet as well. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored here. Ultimately, if the Raiders can just eliminate the interceptions, they can eliminate the mistakes, they can hang with this team. This Colts defense is not good enough to slow this Raiders offense down. I think the Raiders are going to be able to keep this game within a touchdown, ultimately. Is it a risky play? Sure, but again, the key here is 7.5 points. If it's anything above 7.5, it's 7, 6.5, anything like that, lean Colts. The key number here is 7.5 or higher. If you get to 8, 8.5, that's the key line here. I just think the Colts covering a spread of more than a touchdown against this Raiders team could be tricky. The Raiders, they are 50-50 at plus 7.5. And the Colts are 50-50 at minus 7.5. So I think the Raiders offense is good enough here, a decent enough matchup where they should be able to keep this game relatively close. Geno Smith can put up numbers. He's shown it a couple of times this year. He can move the ball downfield. They got Genty going last week. We'll see how this week goes, but I do think Raiders plus 7.5 is a pretty good value play, especially from minus 124. By the way, guys, if you're watching today's video at this point, please go ahead and comment 19 down below in the comment section. We're about to hit the 19-minute mark in today's video. As always, guys, we appreciate those who watch through each and every single video here on the channel. It really does mean a lot to us. So go ahead and comment 19 down below. Our next pick in today's video, another 1 p.m. kickoff game on Sunday. We have Broncos at Eagles. And I am going with Denver here plus 4.5, minus 118 over on FanDuel. Best odds available to me. Now, admittedly, I might be drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit here with Denver. They obviously had a really big win on Monday night against a pretty bad Bengals team. Take it with a grain of salt. But I do think Denver's defense is the real factor here. I think this Denver defense is for real. They had a little bit of a slow start out of the gates the first couple of weeks, but I like the Broncos defense. I think it's still one of the 10 best in the NFL right now. And again, it's all about the value and the spread. Plus 4.5. The Eagles, obviously, they're 4-0. They've been winning games. They're one of the best teams, if not the best team in the NFL. But they won a lot of their games close. Now, the Eagles minus 4.5. They have covered this specific spread in 2 of their 4 games. They do have a 75% cover rate against the spread in general this year. You do see the last 2 games they covered by 4.5 points against the Rams and the Bucs. But every game for the Eagles this year has been a one-score game. Every game, whether it be the Chiefs, who were struggling at the time, the Bucs, who were banged up last week. These teams hang around. The Eagles win, but they make it interesting for their fans every single week. And as many negative things as you can say about Denver, the truth is they have been close in all these games. They covered plus 4.5 in all 4 games this season. Their worst performance was a 23-20 loss to the Chargers. Again, that Colts game, they probably should have won that game. Again, stupid penalty on the field goal attempt. The Chargers game, they honestly played way better than the Chargers in the second half until about the 4th quarter late when Herbert took over. The Broncos are 2-2, but they've covered this spread of plus 4.5 in all 4 games. They've been very close in all 4 games. I think Denver can hang around with Philadelphia. That Bengals game was a bit of a confidence booster. Now, they are on a short week. I have to mention that. But I think Denver's defense is truly good enough to slow this Eagles offense down. They're very good against the run. Obviously, the Eagles offense has been over-reliant this year on the run. Last couple weeks, they've started to pass the ball a little bit more, but still, the Eagles' passing offense has not been super efficient, and the Broncos' top 10 passing defense in the NFL in terms of yards per game. Elite pass rush, they're first in the NFL in sacks per game, first in QB hits, tied for first in QB hurries. They force turnovers, they're tied for 60 yards per play. All the defensive metrics look very good here for Denver. Even with that slow start, this is still one of the best statistical defenses in the NFL today. And although the Broncos offense has not been the most efficient, the one thing you do have here is a pretty clear advantage. You look right here, the Broncos top 5 rushing team in the NFL right now. They figured it out with J.K. Dobbins and rookie R.J. Harvey. They've gotten the run game going, and Bo Nix as well, also involved in that run game a little bit. The Eagles' run defense right now is 21st in the NFL. They're giving up 126 rushing yards per game this season. You can run the ball a little bit on the Eagles. Even their passing defense has been fine, not great. They've got a really strong offensive line in Denver. That's obviously a really big thing here. The Eagles haven't really been putting a lot of pressure on opposing quarterbacks. From a statistical standpoint, there's a lot of good numbers here. And again, we're getting them at plus 4.5. So they don't have to win the game. Just keep it within that number, and we're good to go here. I know it's in Philly. The Eagles, they've been, again, a covered darling so far this year. But I'm telling you, Denver plus 4.5 to me feels like a very strong point spread from minus 118. Great value. Denver's starting to heat up a little bit. They played well versus the Chargers. Even in a loss, they played very well versus a good Chargers team. They crushed the Bengals last week on Monday Night Football. I think they're starting to trend in the right direction. I think Denver plus 4.5 is the play in this spot. All right, guys, next up, we got Texans at Ravens, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. I'm going with the under here, 41.5, which I'm grabbing for minus 125 over on Novig. Now, on HH, I gave Ravens money line. I actually still like, I know some people clown me a little bit because of all the injuries. I still ultimately like that play. I think Cooper Rush as a backup quarterback is competent enough that the Ravens can go ahead and win this game despite they got a lot of stuff against them. The defense doesn't look great, backup quarterback in, but their offense is built to last. They got a good offensive line, good running game, good receivers, better than they have been in the years past. I wouldn't say this is the best receiving core in the league, but Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews, it's good enough. And ultimately, again, I just don't trust the Texans here. I think the under is the better play ultimately and the safer play at 41.5. But I think Baltimore can win this game. Now, a tale of two stories here, right? The under has cashed in all 4 games for the Texans this year. The over has cashed in all 4 games for the Ravens this year. So what does this mean? You have one team that scores high-scoring games. Look at 81, 58, 68, 57. And the Texans, not a single game has touched 40 points. And for the Ravens, every game has touched at least 57 points. It's been crazy, 2 different teams. 2 different stories entirely. But I think the under is the better play here. If Lamar Jackson was playing and it was their full-fledged offense, maybe the over would be the right play here. Look, the Texans defense hasn't been as good as they were expected to be, but it's still a good unit. And especially with Lamar out, although I still trust the Ravens can win this football game, I do think the Ravens offense will not be scoring what they usually have been scoring this year. Now, the Kansas City game was a bit of a low point last week, but 30 points versus the Lions, 41 versus the Browns, 40 versus Buffalo. Taking into consideration the backup quarterback will be in, defensive matchup, I don't see Baltimore scoring anywhere near those numbers. Probably closer to the 20-point total they had versus the Chiefs last week. On the flip side, Houston finally had their first good offensive moment last week versus Tennessee. It feels like it's been over a year since their last good offensive moment. But that was the Titans. The Ravens defense has been pretty bad. We have to admit that. The worst scoring defense in the league. I said Miami earlier. I misspoke. The Ravens actually are giving up more points per game than the Cowboys. It's pretty bad. But at the end of the day, is the Texans offense good enough to take advantage? We've seen Houston play bad defenses, okay? Tennessee, not a very good defense. Jacksonville, they've been solid, but not a great defense, I would necessarily say. Although, I guess Jacksonville has been playing pretty well. The Bucs defense, not exactly something to go ahead and praise. They played mediocre. The only real genuine good defense I think they played so far is that Rams defense. Besides that, they played mediocre to average to bad defenses. Now, Baltimore's far away the worst they played, but again, is this offense good enough to go ahead and score on this Ravens defense? I don't know. The Ravens do have playmakers. Their defensive collapse has been frustrating to watch, especially from a sports betting perspective, because they have big names on that side of the football. Now, they've had some injuries that does obviously affect that. The Ravens defense should be better. It just should be better. I don't trust Houston's offense to score enough, and I think the Ravens, obviously, with the defensive matchup, with the backup quarterback in, I think points are going to be a little bit difficult to come by. I think the under ultimately is the right play in this spot. It's going to be a tight one. It's going to be very, very tight, but I could very well see like a 21-17 outcome here. I could see this being something along the line of that. And if that's the case, obviously, we have an under hit there. I think it's going to be an uglier game, and in those ugly games, I just don't see a lot of points being scored. So I think the under at 41.5 here is the right play. All right, guys, we're now moving on to the 4:05 p.m. window, the 4 o'clock window on Sunday here. We got Bucs, Seahawks. I'm going with Seattle here -3, and this is going to be, first of all, one of the best uniform matches of all time. The Bucs are wearing their icy white creamsicle jerseys, and the Seahawks are wearing their throwback, the royal blue jerseys. It's going to look awesome. A very aesthetically pleasing game. Ultimately, though, I get why Tampa Bay is getting some value here. Obviously, they've been a miracle team. Every time you count the Bucs out, they kind of just put themselves in the situation. They've been in one-score games every single week. Ultimately, though, Seattle has a lot of advantages. First and foremost, they're home, and although lately there hasn't been a big advantage, it's not how the 12th man used to be. Still a home field advantage. The Seahawks have extra rest. Obviously, they last played on Thursday Night Football, so they have a couple extra days to prep for this one. The defense has been very, very strong. Obviously, one of the better defenses in the league. Look at the right side of the screen here. Seattle, top 2 scoring defense. It is 2, but really good run defense, solid in the pass defense. They've got a good pass rush. They force turnovers. A lot of good numbers here, and obviously the Bucs have a healthy amount of injuries. No Bucky Irving, no Mike Evans. They got some injuries in the offensive line. Baker Mayfield isn't even 100% himself. Seattle's defense looked pretty damn good, and their offense, although it's been inconsistent, it hasn't been terrible. Honestly, top 10 scoring offense in the league. Granted, they had that Saints game where they scored 44 points, and then the Steelers game 31 points. Those 2 efforts definitely boost their numbers a bit. I just think with all the injuries the Bucs have, and in general, this is not a great defensive team. Offensively, they're good, but they have a lot of key injuries. I think Seattle's defense is good enough, and their offense is just good enough. They should win this game. I don't see any reason why they shouldn't win this one. Good defense, decent enough offense, home field advantage, extra rest, pretty good point spread here at -3. And they've covered -3 so far this year. If we look at 2025. In 50% of their games, there's 75% hit rate in general against the spread this year. Tampa, 50% in general against the spread, 75% in terms of this +3 line. So it'll be an interesting game, but I think ultimately Seattle, too many advantages, honestly, for Seattle in this spot. The Bucs, too many injuries on the road. Seattle with the rest advantage, better defense, all that stuff. Seattle should win this game and cover. All right, guys, next up we have Titans at Cardinals, 4:05 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. And I gotta be honest, I don't love being on the Titans at any point this year, but this is a lot of points. I'm taking the Titans here +9.5 on the spread. I'm grabbing that for -128 over on FanDuel, best odds available to me. This pick is less about taking Tennessee because I think they're going to turn the corner, and more about can the Cardinals win by 10 or more? So far in 2025, the Cardinals a 0% hit rate in terms of -9.5, and they're 50-50 in terms of the general spread. The closest they've gotten to a big win was that Saints game in week 1 where they won by just 7 points. They haven't really been killing their opponents, and they've had a pretty weak schedule. They played the Saints and Panthers the first 2 weeks, then they played the Mac Jones-led Niners, and then they played Seattle, which is their toughest game of the year so far. So Arizona really hasn't been that impressive. Now, Tennessee has not had any impressive stuff whatsoever. Tennessee is by far the worst team in the NFL this year, but they did cover this spread once back in week 1 versus Denver. And to be fair, all these other teams that blew them out, the Rams, the Colts, I think those 2 teams at least are better than Arizona. The Texans, it's close. This is just a matter. I see this in college football a lot. I see this in the NFL a lot, where it's just like we get these point spread, and it's like, okay, I get it. Tennessee's very bad, but is Arizona good enough to cover a 10-point spread? Can they win a game by 10 or more points? Maybe they can. The Titans are pretty damn bad. But ultimately, I don't think Arizona's good enough to win a game, even against the Titans team, by that much. Arizona has a lot of issues right now. Obviously, they go ahead and they lose James Conner on offense, a big loss for them. Now, similar to Seattle, they do have extra rest. They obviously play Thursday Night Football, but there's just a lot going against this Cardinals team right now. Defensively, they've been okay, top 10 scoring defense, but they've also played, again, weak teams. Look at a little deeper look at the numbers here. They have a very weak passing offense here, and their pass rush has been okay at best. There's some good defensive metrics and some bad defensive metrics here. Overall, I would say Arizona's defense is mediocre at best. I know the scoring defensive numbers are good, but again, when you play the Saints, the Panthers, the Mac Jones Niners, and even Seattle being the best offense you've played this year is sort of telling as to why your defensive numbers look as good as they are. And now you get to play Tennessee. So Arizona's defensive numbers are going to continue to look pretty good because they've had a pretty weak schedule so far this year. On the flip side, their offense has been very underwhelming. 20th in passing yards per game, 22nd in rushing yards, 26th in yards per play, 22nd in terms of scoring. I mean, this is just not a very good offense. A bad team versus a mediocre team. Arizona will certainly win this game, but to cover 10, to win by 10 or more points, to cover a 9.5 point spread, I don't know. I know the Tennessee Titans are very, very bad, but I think they can keep this game within that number of 10. I think that's key. To lose by less than 10 points, I think they can go ahead and do it in this spot. I think their defense, the numbers are bad for Tennessee's defense, but in their defense, I think they're actually pretty frisky. And look at their schedule. I mean, they played Denver, Rams, Colts, all three pretty damn good teams, and then Houston's the weakest team they play, and it's still the Texans at the end of the day. I think Tennessee's defense, mixed with the fact that the Cardinals' offense has just been not that good, I don't see Arizona scoring a ton of points here, and if Tennessee can hopefully score a little bit here, we should be good to go. So I think plus 9.5 is the better play. I trust Tennessee way more in covering this spot, which is pretty telling of how I feel on Arizona this year. I trust them a lot more to cover this 9.5 point spread than even Arizona covering like an 8.5 point spread. So I like the Titans here, plus 9.5. All right, guys, next up we have Commanders at Chargers, 4:25 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. I'm going with the Chargers here on the spread, minus 2.5, which I'm grabbing for minus 115 over on DraftKings. This is a pretty easy one for me, guys. Chargers coming off, obviously, a pretty embarrassing loss last week against the Giants team that had a rookie quarterback and no Malik Neighbors for the majority of that game. I think Chargers will come back here at home and have a much better effort versus the Commanders team that is dealing with some pretty big injuries right now. Look at the right side of the screen now. I think Jaden Daniels, if I'm not mistaken, is expected to play. I think he was practicing again this week. Obviously, Austin Eckler out for the season. Terry McLaurin is also still banged up. He's questionable right now. Look at this. He was a non-participant at Wednesday's practice. Obviously not very good. Deebo Samuel banged up. Noah Brown banged up. A lot of wide receivers are being held out of practice right now. I don't see Jaden Daniels on the injury report, so I believe that means he is good to go. So they're going to get Jaden Daniels back here. That being said, Jaden Daniels with an offense that's going to be missing some guys. And even if they're not missing, they're going to be playing at less than 100%. And that could be a pretty big problem here because it's obviously a pretty damn good Chargers team. I know last week they didn't show it necessarily, but this is a top 10 defense in the NFL. And offensively, their passing offense has been very, very good. This right here is a problem, okay? 5th best passing offense going up against the 27th passing defense in terms of yards per game. A bit of a problem. I think there's some clear advantage for the Chargers here in this spot. The Commanders, they don't force a ton of turnovers. This defense is not, it's okay at best, but it's not a very good defense. And on the offensive side of the football, the numbers look okay, but again, a lot of injuries right now. Even with Jaden Daniels returning, they got a lot of injuries at the wide receiver position. They lost Austin Eckler for the year. Their offensive line has been okay, not great. I think the Chargers are clearly the better team here. And look at this number here, for the insight provided by Outlier. The Chargers are 12-4 against the spread in their last 16 games. It's a pretty damn good number from minus 115 odds. I'm taking the better team at home in a better circumstance here. So give me the Chargers here. All right, guys, 2 picks left in today's video. We have Lions at Bengals, 4:25 p.m. kickoff here. I'm going with the over 48.5 in this spot here, which I'm grabbing for minus 115 over on FanDuel. Again, this is a very high point spread. The Lions are 10.5 point favorites in this one, although I can clearly see Detroit winning this game by 11 or more points because the Bengals the last 2 weeks have gotten blown out big time. Look at 2025 numbers. They lost by 25 to the Broncos, 38 to the Vikings. So clearly this team can get blown out, but I think the over ultimately is a safe side. Those big 10-plus point spreads are very hard to cover. There's a reason why a lot of times the underdog is the smarter play in that spot. To me, the over is the best play here. The Lions are going to carry the scoring load. Look at their game so far. The over has hit in 2 of the 4 games. The Cincinnati, the same story, 2 of the 4 games. The Lions, who have been on a pretty good run here, obviously they scored 52 versus the Bears, 38 versus the Ravens, 34 versus the Browns. That Week 1 game versus the Packers, clearly a bit of an outlier. Shout out to Outlier one more time, sponsor of today's video. because the rest of their games, the offense has looked very, very strong. The Bengals don't have a very good defense. Detroit should score at least 30 points again this week. The difference here is I think Cincinnati can actually contribute to the total. Now, they scored a grand total of 13 points combined the last 2 weeks. But to be fair, that's the Broncos defense. That's the Vikings defense. This is the Lions defense. Okay, they got some injuries in the secondary. The defensive numbers for Detroit have not been great. Not bad, but not great. This is an average defense. They played 2 of the 5 best defenses in the NFL with the Vikings and Broncos. All we need the Bengals to do here realistically is score in the ballpark of 17 to 20 points. If they can do that, I truly believe that Detroit can cover the rest. If the Bengals can score 17 points, all we would need is 32, 33 points from Detroit, which I think is very likely. They've done that each of the last 3 weeks against some teams that are better defensively, including the Browns, right? I think the Bengals will score. They still have Chase Brown. They've got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Like, they still have weapons. Jake Browning has not looked very good. But again, this is one of the worst offensive lines in football with 2 of the best pass rushers in the NFL. Detroit's pass rush is not as potent, although they are tied for second in sacks per game. I do think Jake Browning and this Bengals offense will have more success in this spot. 17 points. That's the key number for Cincinnati here. And then I think Detroit can go ahead and cover the rest. You also have the insights provided by Outliers. 7 of the last 8 home games for the Bengals, the over has hit. So in Cincinnati, points have been scored. The lowest point total here is 30 points over the last 8 games, as of course dates back to last year. The next lowest point total, 54 points. So there have been some really high scoring games here in Cincinnati. Bad Bengals defense. Lions defense isn't great, but it's good enough where they're going to obviously win this game. But I think Cincinnati can score a healthy amount of points. Again, you can take Lions minus 10.5 if you wish. When I see 10.5 point spreads, I just get too nervous with those. I think the over is a much better play. And again, for 48.5, we're going to hit minus 115. Pretty good value. And then our final straight back pick here is the Monday Night Football game, Chiefs-Jaguars. Now, I know I slipped over Sunday Night Football. I do a separate video here on the channel where I cover the Sunday Night Football picks videos. So go ahead and check that video out. That'll be out on either Saturday night or Sunday morning. I'll do a full breakdown of that game, including spread picks, player props, all that stuff. So make sure to check out that video when it does drop. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But Monday Night Football, Chiefs-Jaguars, 8:15 p.m. kickoff on Monday. I am going Jacksonville here plus 4.5. I think this is a perfect spot to go ahead back to, that was not proper English at all. Go ahead and get back to, there we go, that's what I wanted to say, fading the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, the Chiefs have won each of their last 2 games, and more importantly, they've covered the spread in each of their last 2 games, which obviously for Kansas City, not normal for them lately. As you can see by the insight provided by Outlier, the Chiefs are 6-12 against the spread in their last 18 games. So obviously, this has not been a very good cover team dating back to last year. But this is a great spot. They've won 2 games in a row. They crushed Baltimore. I think everyone's back on the Chiefs now. You get this Monday Night Football game. They're playing a Jacksonville team that I think a lot of us, including myself ultimately, are not 100% sure of. New coach. They had a bit of a weak schedule. They played the Panthers, the Bengals, the Texans, and the Niners. You know, not exactly the toughest schedule this year. I think everybody's going to be like, oh, Kansas City should win this game. I think they will win it, but I think it's going to be very, very close. And honestly, Jaguars' money line might be something to sprinkle. I obviously was very high in Jacksonville. I bet their money line last week and their spread last week. They came through for me there. I just think Kansas City's problems didn't just magically go away. They look better because of some of the matchups they've had. They played the Giants. They played the Ravens. But this team still has some issues, specifically on the offensive side of the football. And Jacksonville's defense and offense, but speaking of their defense, it's been better than expected. This is a very good team, top 5 scoring defense. Again, take into consideration they played the Panthers, Bengals when the game where Joe Burrow got hurt, the Texans, and the Niners with all their injuries. So take it with a grain of salt, but 4th best rushing defense. They're forcing a ton of turnovers. Number 1, averaging 3.2 forced turnovers per game. Now, I don't think they can keep up that rate all year long, but this team has been opportunistic, forcing turnovers, good run defense, good scoring defense, efficient in the red zone, pretty good on not giving up too many first downs, pretty good in yards per play, a okay pass rush. I think their defense is good enough to keep this game close, and offensively, leaves some things to be desired, but there's a clear advantage there. This team has been very good under the Liam Cohen regime of running the football. 4th best rushing offense. The Chiefs' weakness right now on defense is their rushing defense. Jacksonville can run the football, control the game. With their defense, how well they've been playing, they force a turnover or 2, we could be cooking with something here. So I think Jaguars plus 4.5. Again, I'm not necessarily saying go bet money line, although you might want to sprinkle a little something. I think plus 4.5 is a great, great number. They're going to keep this game close. Kansas City, obviously, the last 2 years, a lot of tight one-score games. I think Jacksonville truly is good enough with the home field advantage. They've got some good momentum coming into this one. By the way, they are 100% this year cover rate at plus 4.5, 75% hit rate in general against the spread. Pretty good numbers, okay? I think Jacksonville plus 4.5 is the play. Minus 127 over on Novig. Pretty good value too. That's our 12th and final straight bet in today's video. Now, I know what I'm about to say is a bit unusual, but unfortunately, I've had some scheduling concerns here, and I'm running a little bit behind. If you guys don't know, I own a pizza shop, and we're a little short-staffed right now, so work has been tough. I am going to close the video here, but I know obviously we didn't do any parlays, we didn't do any teasers. I'm going to do a separate video. It won't be as long as this. It'll be like a 10 to 15 minute video where I'll do just parlays and just teasers. We can spend a little bit more time. I don't want to rush it and just throw them out. I want to make sure I can give you guys the picks, explain them, and give you a good amount of picks at that. So we're going to cut the video. This is part one, I guess you can say, of the NFL Oracle this week. I'll do a separate video probably coming out tomorrow or maybe later tonight. We'll see what my schedule looks like. But we're going to end this video here, and then we'll do a separate video, another Oracle video with parlays and teasers. So sorry about the confusion. That won't be every week the case. Next week, we'll be back to doing the parlays and teasers at the end of the Oracle videos. But again, just running a little late here for work, and I just don't want to risk, A, being, obviously inefficient with you guys and just kind of throwing the picks out, and B, obviously being late to open the pizza place. So we're going to end the video there. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing and liking all that stuff. I appreciate you guys and your patience. I know, obviously, not ideal, but we will have a separate video for parlays and teasers, and that'll be coming out either today or tomorrow. But guys, that's it for me today. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. Until next time, I hope you're all winners. Let's go ahead and make some money, baby, and make sure to subscribe to the channel and look out for that parlays and teasers video. It'll be coming out very soon.